Let me talk to you. Welcome back to The Last Yard. This is your NFL podcast about all things NFL this season. I'm your humble host, Kevin Jameson Horton, and let me guide you through all things NFL for the 2024 season. This last week for the NFL was what I like to call opposite weekend. And boy, do I have a lot to get off my chest. So let's just jump on into it. Alrighty, so like we always do, we're going to be going over the winners and losers of last week. We're going to be going over injury updates, fantasy insights, everything like that, everything you could ever want about the NFL. And then at the very end, we're going to be doing our flash predictions. I'm going to go through real quick, give our predictions for the upcoming week. Alrighty, why don't we just hop into this, man? Thursday Night Football. Bills defeat the Dolphins 31-10. Prayers up to Tua Tagovailoa. I cannot stress this enough. This guy really needs to start protecting his head. Another concussion, man. This is like what? I don't mean to joke, but this is like 10 concussions at this point. I really don't know. This guy, I would really like to see him protect himself or honestly retire. It's bad at this point. Your head can't take that kind of trauma over and over again, but he was placed on injury reserve, IR. From here on out, I'll be referring to injured reserve as IR. Mostert was out this game. However, that didn't stop Devon Achane from going off. It was a weird game. The Dolphins led in total yards, pass yards, rushing yards, but still got absolutely destroyed. Like, I guess it's the interceptions, man. Shoot yourself in the foot. That's what's going to happen. You know what I mean? James Cook had a great game, 3 touchdown game. Yeah, he's shaping up to be a permanent spot in your fantasy lineups. Keep that in mind from here on out. Dolphins plays Tua on IR. They released Chosen Anderson, Robbie Anderson, for those of you that watched football 5 years ago. um, things are looking up in Buffalo. We're still waiting on a really solid wide receiver one over there. But when you have a great quarterback, he can make anybody look like wide receiver 1B material, at least. So we'll see what happens over there. Josh Allen didn't really look hurt. That left hand didn't really seem to bother him at all. Buffalo's looking good. Miami, not so much. Prayers up to Tua. I cannot stress this enough, man. Consider retirement. He will make the bag if he retires. He's got 140 or 160 million dollars guaranteed if he just retires, and he could save his damn head. That's all I can think about. You know what I mean? Moving on, we have a terrible game for me. Vikings defeat the 49ers 23-17. This is what really kicked off opposite weekend, wild weekend, whatever you really want to call it. Um, what happened? You know what I mean? The 49ers played better on paper. Brock Purdy, 300 yards and a touchdown. Also, if you see me looking down, I apologize. I have all of my statistics here. Can't really remember every single number for every single game. You know what I mean? So I have my statistics here. On papers, 49ers did better, man. Brock Purdy, 300 yards and a touchdown, 1 interception, though. Jordan Mason, 100 yards. Deebo Samuel, 110 yards off 8 receptions, I believe. George Kittle, 76 yards and a touchdown, if I'm not mistaken. But the 49ers haven't beaten the Vikings in Minnesota since 1992. This is a curse. We are seeing a curse play out in front of us. Witchcraft. Am I right or am I right? You know what I mean? What the? Fred Warner played out of his freaking mind. This guy's shaping up through 2 weeks to be the damn defensive player of the year already. He had 3 forced fumbles. 2 of them were recovered. He had an interception. He's the only guy that came out to play on the 49ers defense. Honestly, man, I'm trying to see Nick Bosa have that same kind of ferocity that Warner does, man. This guy's like a heat-seeking missile. He's just in every single play imaginable. He's in coverage. He's rushing the quarterback. He's rushing the running back. Moving on, we've got our injury report. Deebo Samuel is expected to miss 1 to 2 weeks with calf strain. Justin Jefferson, he's day to day with a quad contusion. He collided with Fred Warner. I think anybody would have a big fat bruise on their leg if they collided with Fred Warner. I'd probably die. Something we need to talk about is the 49ers letting up 6 sacks, and what in the hell is going on? The 49ers looked great against the Jets pass rush, but now against the Vikings pass rush, they look like Clark High School. They look like Reagan High School. They look like Churchill High School. You know what I mean? What are we doing? This is the grown man's league. You cannot be letting your guy get sacked 6 times. Your franchise guy. You can't let that happen. Who the hell knew Sam Darnold would be so good? You know, they did this to us without Jordan Addison as well. Who knows? Fantasy-wise, things looked all right. Deebo had a great game. Kittle had a pretty good game. Justin Jefferson had a great game. Sam Darnold, Brock Purdy had all right games. Christian McCaffrey is still going to be out. He's on IR. Honestly, we don't know when he's going to be back. He's set to come back in obviously 3 weeks now, but Head coach Kyle Shanahan said he may miss another week or two. I'll keep you updated. Who knows? Moving on, we got the Seahawks defeating the Patriots. Now, I had the Patriots going in there and winning. They did only lose 23-20 in overtime. So what can you do? Patriots look genuinely okay. I've got to say, I thought they were going to be a bottom three team, but they're looking like they might be a middle of the line type of team. Hunter Henry played well. That boy DK Metcalf popped off for a very, very good game. I don't have the stats here with me, but he had a monster fantasy game. I should know because I lost to him this week. Moving on before I crash out. Commanders defeat the Giants 21-18. Only the Giants can score 18 points and still lose to a team that didn't score a single touchdown. You're as shocked as I am right now. I could tell you what. Don't ask me, ask Brian Dable, man. Daniel Jones didn't look like a complete thief this time around. He scored 2 touchdowns, something I didn't think we'd even see this season. No offense to you, Daniel Jones. Jane Daniels still having a pretty slow start. No touchdowns, but he did have a 230 yards in that ballpark. You know what I mean? Fantasy-wise, Malik Neighbors finally had his good game. I mean, in 2 weeks. I can't expect that much from a rookie. 1 touchdown, 127 yards. He went crazy in the first quarter. Austin Seibert, you had him on your fantasy team. I applaud you. Like, genuine, honest to God. 7 for 7, 21 points. Not fantasy points, 21 field goal points. You know what I mean? Moving on again before I crash out. Chargers defeat the Panthers 26-3. Good game from the Chargers. Didn't expect anything different. You know, it is the Panthers, though. We have to see a little bit more from the Chargers because they've only beat the Raiders and the Panthers now. Justin Herbert took a pretty bad hit towards the end of the third quarter. A minute of something left, third quarter. But he kept playing. He didn't practice for the Wednesday practice, but he says he's okay. I think he's going to be all right. I think he's going to suit up against the Steelers, definitely. Fantasy-wise, Quentin Johnston, finally, man. I was like, you are such a bust. TCU, and you've been trashed. So God help me. 2 touchdowns, 57 yards. Again, not a lot of yards, but he was scoring his touchdowns. Cannot complain over here, man. I really can't. No one on the Panthers is worth picking up for fantasy. Steer clear of everybody that is on that franchise, everybody that's even been associated with that franchise. I'm joking. Christian McCaffrey was there. But anybody that is currently on that team, just avoid. Bryce Young has been sat. He's been benched for Andy freaking Dalton. You know, I placed a bet. It's a fantasy bet, so it's legal. I placed a bet for a season long type of thing that he would have more than 18 and a half touchdowns. I'm cooked. I'm cooked. Moving on. Oh, man. When the Cowboys lose, America wins. You know what I mean? We have the Saints defeating the Cowboys 44-19. Man, I could ramble about Dallas for hours. I'm not gonna. All right. But when Rico Dowdle, and I have to read this name, let me tell you, I know my football. I have to read this name. When Rico Dowdle is your leading rusher, you're screwed. You have some issues going on there. Ezekiel Elliott is not going to do it for you anymore. They need to draft a good running back this season. I got to say, or maybe they trade for one. I don't know. Alvin Kamara had that game that he has every season where he goes off for like 3, 4, 5 touchdowns. You know what I mean? And sorry, Dallas, it had to happen against you. I don't make the rules here. I really don't. Alvin Kamara, 3 touchdowns rushing, 1 touchdown receiving, a monstrous 4 touchdown game. If you had him on fantasy, count your lucky stars. I will tell you that much. Thankfully, I didn't play him this week, but to those that did, we salute you, and I'm sorry. And if you would have told me that the MVP race as of week 2 would consist of a name such as Derek Carr, I would have told you to, and I quote, stay off the weed. Stay off the weed. Thank you, Stephen A. Smith, for saying that. I would have told you to stay off the weed if you told me that Derek Carr would have been this freaking crazy right now, honestly. Moving on, fantasy-wise, Alvin Kamara, he is always going to be in your starting lineup. If you take him out, you're dumb. Rashid Shaheed went nuts. I played against him, but he was on the bench, so I was like, thank God. You know what I mean? He had a great game. CeeDee Lamb got his, 1 touchdown, 90 yards on 4 receptions. That was really the only redeeming factor for the Cowboys. I got to tell you what. No injury updates that I've got from that game. Again, things are still rolling out. We don't know everything yet, but maybe the Cowboys will bounce back. Maybe they won't. I still have to see a little bit more from the Saints to really say that they're a contender right now. You know what I mean? Next up, we got the Packers defeating the Colts 16-10. Now, I watched this game. I watched every game, but I really watched this game. Weird game for Anthony Richardson after last week. Quite a weird recession. It's looking like 2008, but that's a good joke for anybody that picked that up. But it was a recession for him. 3 picks. Last one was a garbage time pick, I gotta say. Still though, I think he's gonna bounce back, but it looked odd. No major injuries for that game. Jordan Love is still on IR. Obviously, he's gonna be on IR for the next 3 weeks. But pray for him again. I hope his rehab is going well. Malik Willis winning a game is kind of crazy to me. I'm gonna say that much, but I'm not gonna dote on it too much. You know what I mean? Fantasy wise, JT ran all over them, man. Taylor had him a game. Didn't play in the fourth quarter though because they were trying to sling the rock. I get it, but it's still weird to not have him on the field. Alec Pierce, is he gonna be the wide receiver 1 in Indianapolis? Man, I gotta say, I really don't know. It's weird. Michael Pittman hasn't really had a good game this season. I know it's only been 2 weeks, and you can't really say too much right now. But Alec Pierce is getting his. Man, he's getting his. Josh Jacobs feasted. Obviously, he's going to continue to feast. He's a good running back and a pretty good system. I think we'll see a little bit more from him. Next up, we got the Browns defeating the Jaguars 18-3. Njoku, DeJuan Jones, and Myles Garrett, they're all hurt. They did not participate for practice this week. There's smaller injuries, I will say, stuff like foot. Nothing too serious, but that is something to keep an eye on if you are a Browns fan or even if you're just trying to keep in the know. We got a defensive player of the year, a little bit hurt. It's not very good. I still don't think he deserved it, but don't get me started on all that. Don't get me started. You know what I mean? It was a mediocre game from both sides. Honestly, terrible for fantasy. I got to tell you what. I kind of just want to move on because I'm sick. Next up, we got the Jets taking down the Titans 24-17. I don't think anybody expected anything different. Prayers up to Jermaine Johnson, the Jets pass rusher. He tore his Achilles this game. He's going to be out for the season. Obviously, he's got to go and undergo surgery, all that stuff. And now the Jets signed a star pass rusher, Hassan Reddick, from the Eagles. But he wants an extension already without having playing a single down. He's lost $8 million already in fines for not playing anything. Showing up to training camp for not playing any games. Do they finally just bite the bullet and re-sign this guy because they need that pass rush, man? They lose Jermaine Johnson. You got Hassan Reddick waiting. Do they sign him? Beats me. I don't know. Beats me. Rodgers, he had 2 touchdowns, but his yards are low. I saw some crazy statistic that he hasn't thrown for 300 yards in a little while. Are we seeing the end of Aaron Rodgers? I don't know. He is 40 years old, so probably, I will say. A little bit depressing, but he's a diva, and I'm a 49ers fan, so I don't care. I do care. It is sad to see, this is a guy you grew up with and everything like that. It's like bittersweet, how it's like with LeBron James getting old. I hated him, man. I'm a Spurs fan. But it's sad to see, LeBron James. It's my fault. Will Levis is the king of rookie mistakes. I will tell you what, there was another last week we saw him when he was like, oh no, after he threw that pick. This time around, he got out of the pocket kind of and tried to just toss it to Tony Pollard. I was like, man, you could take off or just take the sack or whatever it is. He fumbles, turnover. He's got his coach saying, what the F are you doing type stuff. And I'm just like, he deserves that, honestly. Fantasy-wise, Tony Pollard looked great. Breece Hall should always be in your lineup. I do need to start seeing some touchdowns from him, though. You know what I mean? The yards and the receptions, good. He's got good upside, but I do need to start seeing some touchdowns from that boy. Garrett Wilson, always going to be good. Calvin Ridley had himself a game. Unexpected, but it was a pretty good game. Something to look out for in the future. Calvin Ridley, that is, to look out for in the future. Moving on, we got the Buccaneers taking down the Lions 20-16. I'd say opposite weekend, you know what I mean? But no, this is not part of opposite weekend. The Bucs are great, man. They're looking good. I'm high on them right now. I think they're a good team, and I thought they had the Lions number last season, but what happened. Baker threw his pick. It sealed the game. That's fine. They weren't beating the 49ers, I'll tell you what. Baker looks great. Mike Evans looks great. Rachaad White looks great. Chris Godwin, a resurgence here from that, man. I'm loving it, man. I really mess with Chris Godwin. That guy's cool. The Lions are good too. The Bucs just played a little bit better, and it was a bad game from Jared Goff. I'll tell you what, pretty bad game. I do think the Buccaneers are a potential dark horse for a good playoff push this year, so keep that in mind. Lions fans, breathe a breath of relief. Amon-Ra St. Brown did not get hurt. He only had a contusion, I believe, on his thigh when he got hit, and then he just started cramping in his calves. That's why he hobbled off the field that last drive. Nothing to worry about. He went on a podcast and said, hey, I'm good. I was like, cool, man. That's good. I don't want to see you get hurt, especially because you're on my fantasy team. Fantasy-wise, Chris Godwin had a great game, 117 yards, 1 touchdown. Massive. Is he the wide receiver one? I don't know. I really don't. Amon-Ra had a nice game, 11 receptions for 119 yards. Again, I don't know if I mentioned it, but if I'm looking down, it's because I have my statistics here. I can't remember all of these statistics. I remember a good amount of them, but I can't remember all of them. So if you see me reading, that's why. Jared Goff had a bad game. He threw for 300 yards, but 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. That's yikes. You know what I mean? Hopefully, we're not seeing Jared Goff go back to the Jared Goff we knew from like 2 seasons ago. Moving on, though, we got the Raiders defeating the Ravens 26-3. What the? Like, what? What? Gardner Minshew is good. Opposite weekend, like full in effect, I guess. You know what I mean? If you would have told me that Gardner Minshew was going to beat the Ravens, I would have told you, say with me, stay off the weed. Devontae Adams had himself a game, man, fantasy-wise. 9 receptions, 110 yards, 1 touchdown. Brock Bowers finally had his breakout game, the rookie tight end, man. Oh, oh, he looked good. What was it? 9 receptions, 98 yards as well. On the Ravens side of the ball, we got Derrick Henry, 84 yards on 18 carries for a touchdown. That's pretty good. We're used to seeing Derrick Henry have like 30 carries, but this is good. He's getting older. I mean, we want to see Henry for a while. We want to see the King for a little while longer. Zay Flowers, 91 yards, 1 touchdown. And Mark Andrews, 4 receptions, 51 yards for the veteran. Isaiah Likely wasn't here this game. I thought maybe we had a new tight end one in Baltimore, but maybe the veteran's back. We never know. Next up, we got the Cardinals taking the Rams down 41-10. Man, I almost don't even want to talk about it. These are my division rivals, obviously, but you don't like to see guys that are totally hurt. It was a field day for the Cardinals. The Rams are just hurt. Puka's out on IR. Cooper Kupp goes out with an ankle injury in the middle of the game, doesn't return, stuff like that. Sean McVay said he's not going to place him on IR. I was like, I don't know if that's a good idea because Cooper Kupp has had this lingering ankle injury for 2 years now. You know what I mean? Let this guy just rehab. But I do think this is probably the last year in Los Angeles for Cooper Kupp, sadly. Moving on, fantasy. Let's go. Arizona went crazy. Kyler Murray, 266 yards off of only, 17 completions. He had 3 touchdowns. James Conner ran for 122 yards, 1 touchdown. Marvin Harrison Jr. finally popped off after that abysmal game last week. Man, he went crazy. 130 yards and 2 touchdowns off of only 4 receptions. I was like, damn, Marvin, looking like your daddy out there. That's just crazy. And Trey McBride is officially solidifying himself as one of the top tight ends. He finished with 6 receptions, 67 yards. He looks good. Moving on, we got the Chiefs taking on the Bengals, defeating the Bengals actually, 26-25. Good game until the very end. Abysmal, to tell you what. And I'll ramble on. I will. I'm going to try to limit myself, though. First off, I do want to say prayers up to Isaiah Pacheco, man. I hate the Chiefs, but I also hate seeing players get injured. You know what I mean? He suffered a fractured fibula, and he will undergo surgery, and he will be out for, on the optimistic side, 6 to 8 weeks. But Coach Andy Reid says he might not return this season. So that's something to look for. I think Joe Burrow absolutely outclassed Patrick Mahomes this entire game. The Bengals were penalized 8 times for 79 yards, while the Chiefs were only penalized 4 times for 44 yards. I mean, if we want to sit here and act like the Chiefs are not being helped and favored by the refs, then sure, you can sit there and do that. But I'm not. This game was completely awful to watch. And as a fan of the NFL and someone who watches Chiefs games to actually see what it looks like, because I see whenever they play the 49ers, it's one-sided. And now it's that way with every team. When are the refs going to stop helping the Chiefs? That's my question. And when is the integrity of the game going to get returned? It is blatant favoritism that I'm seeing in this league. They got Taylor Swift in there, so they're like, "Oh my God, we're minting money off of these Swifties. Holy moly! Let's help Patrick Mahomes because Travis Kelce is dating her. I don't care. I don't give a damn. This is a sports league. This is not the WWE, and I love the WWE, but this is not sports entertainment. This is sports. You know what I mean? We're not supposed to be fixing things like this, but it's starting to look like that's what's happening. The cheater Chiefs. That's what we're going to start calling them from here on out. Fantasy wise, start making moves. Isaiah Pacheco's gone, so Carson Steele is next up in the Chiefs offense. Maybe pick him up. You might want to make some moves in order to get a viable player because we don't know how Carson Steele will play. I did see him fumble firsthand, so we don't really know. As for the Bengals, we're still looking for a Jamar Chase contract. Don't know what's going on with that whole thing. I'll keep you updated as best I can. This is kind of the weirdest contract dispute I've seen in a while. Mike Gesicki is a gem. Rashee Rice is a gem. Travis Kelce was non-existent. Moving on. Steelers defeat the Broncos 13-6. Pretty boring game, very low scoring. Russell Wilson is still facing that lingering calf injury, so I believe Justin Fields will be suiting up as quarterback for week 3 as well. But he's 2-0, man. Get that man his flowers. You know what I mean? Should the Steelers look into a trade? Should they entertain a trade with Russell Wilson? We'll see in the future. Fantasy-wise, terrible. Maybe keep an eye on George Pickens. He might go off because he's a good wide receiver. So watch the matchups if you have him, and maybe start him. The backfield for the Broncos is horrendous. Javonte Williams had 11 carries for 17 yards. That's 1.5 yards a carry. You're trash, kid. That was terrible. Moving on, Texans defeat the Bears 19-3. Nobody's shocked here after last week. Joe Mixon avoided serious injury with that hip drop tackle. Now, if you're going to have hip drop tackles get banned, you might as well, enforce your ban and penalize it. Sometimes I really do hate the NFL. Just kidding. No, I'm not. I'm not actually at all. I'm not affiliated with the NFL. Sometimes I hate them. I really do. Yeah, Joe Mixon hurt his ankle, but head coach D'Amico Ryans is optimistic that he might actually suit up on Monday, so he avoided anything too serious. Fantasy-wise, nobody on the Bears did well except for DJ Moore. He went off for 6 receptions, 53 yards. That's only I think 11 points or so, 12 points. Not too great. CJ Stroud had a pretty good game, 260 yards, 1 touchdown, but Nico Collins had a massive game, that boy. He went off for, 135 yards off 8 receptions for 1 touchdown. Nico Collins is the wide receiver 1 in Houston. Sorry, Stephon Diggs, but he is. Moving on, Falcons take on the Eagles and defeat them 22-21. Monday Night Football. That's how we're going to cap off opposite weekend. That was a good game-winning drive from Kirk Chains. I got to say, Kirk Cousins, man. Left them with 30 seconds left. Sealed the deal. I liked it. You know what I mean? Something to keep an eye on. A.J. Brown is still out. He was out for this game, and he will be out for a couple more weeks, I believe I heard. So the Eagles will be looking at Devontae Smith as their wide receiver 1 for a little while. Nick Sirianni, head coach of the Eagles, is under heavy scrutiny right now, and I believe he should be. I don't think he's a very good head coach. Maybe I'm biased, but he deserves to be under scrutiny. Fantasy-wise, Kirk Cousins went off for 241 yards, 2 touchdowns, while Bijan Robinson, the running back, went off for 97 yards, no touchdowns though. Darnell Mooney had a nice game, 3 receptions, 88 yards, 1 touchdown. Drake London went off for 54 yards, 6 receptions, and a touchdown. Man, Kirk Chains, he shared the wealth. God is good. Shared the wealth. I like to see that. You know what I mean? Jalen Hurts, pretty mediocre game, 183 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And the 1 touchdown, I believe, was a tush push. I can't even lie to you. Saquon ran for 95 yards, but he did miss a crucial reception at the very end of that game. I feel bad for him. Would have iced the game, but it's whatever. Devontae Smith had 76 yards off 7 receptions for 1 touchdown. Pretty good game from him, I got to say. That's going to cap off week 2 of the NFL, but we're not done here. Why in the hell would we be done here? No. Time to do our flash predictions right here. I got my list right here. Patriots versus Jets. Jets. Although I do think the Patriots might put up a fight, I got to say. Jets are a little bit hurt right now. Still getting stuff organized. Still got the Jets, but I think the Patriots might have a chance. Giants versus Browns. Giants. I'm sorry, you suck. You're going to be the second overall pick this year. Eagles versus Saints. I'm going to take the Saints. I think I am. I don't think the Eagles are being coached very well right now, so I'm going to take the Saints. Texans versus Vikings. Vikings look good against the 49ers, but I got to take the Texans, man. CJ Stroud is just too much of a dog. He really is, and especially if Joe Mixon suits up, he's too much of a dog as well. Next up, Broncos versus Buccaneers. Packers versus Titans. Two quarterbacks from the Titans, man. We got Malik Willis and Will Levis. I'm going to take the Packers because I think Will Levis just makes his mistakes, and I think Josh Jacobs is just going to have a field day as well on that D-line. Next up, we got Bears versus Colts. I'm going to take the Colts. I think Anthony Richardson bounces back after last week. Next up, Chargers versus Steelers. You know, if the Steelers aren't scoring touchdowns, man, it's going to be the Chargers, but I think I'm going to take the Steelers. That defense is good. I think it's better than the Chargers. But anything can happen. That's a good game. That's up in the air. Next up, we got Dolphins versus Seahawks. It's going to be the Seahawks, man. Prayers up to Tua. I hope you get better, brother. Next up, Panthers versus Raiders. That's going to be the Raiders. Panthers, you suck. You're trash, kid. 49ers versus Rams. I'm going to take the 49ers. The Rams are hurt, man. They're really hurt. I'm not taking them just because I'm biased. You know what I mean? But the Rams are hurt. And the 49ers, SoFi Stadium is really just Levi South. You know what I mean? We have a 62% attendance rate for our fans. and the average ticket price is $330 or something like that per ticket. The 49ers are a hot commodity, and I like them for this game. We got Lions versus Cardinals. I'm going to take the Cardinals. Cardinals are on a hot hand right now, but I could see the Lions taking that. They're a good team, you know what I mean? But I got the Cardinals right now. Ravens versus Cowboys. I think the Cowboys bounce back and they realize, hey, this ain't the postseason, and they take down the Ravens. But I could see the Ravens taking it. I do have to say. Chiefs versus Falcons. Chiefs. Jaguars versus Bills. Jaguars. Commanders versus Bengals. Bengals. Alrighty, man. I believe I got a lot off my chest. I think I gave you guys some valuable news that we could use moving forward for not only your favorite team, but for fantasy football as well. I do want to say thank you guys for watching, tuning in every week. Love y'all. Take care. And remember, The Last Yard is your podcast for everything NFL related. And we're going to be doing this every single week. The exact same thing we just did. We're going to be going over everything, and then we're going to be doing our flash predictions every single week. So tune in and turn up. Take care.